Hi, I'm Madison and welcome to my channel. Today I have the mid-year book freakout tag. So I'm filming this a little bit late because if you've been paying attention to my channel, you will know that I have been moving the last 2-3 weeks basically, and it has been a journey, an awful journey, a very bad journey. I've vlogged the entire journey. It is quite chaotic. It is sad, hilarious, funny, depressing, a little bit of everything if I'm being quite honest. Regardless, today I'm going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag because that is a staple here on BookTube. I've been doing it since 2018 and I'm never going to stop, basically. So, and the question's written down on my phone because I have no books with me. Literally all my books are in boxes that shipped here. So I have like a couple of books. I haven't read these books. They do not pertain whatsoever to this tag. So instead, let me pull up the questions and we're gonna go through it together. So the first question is, what is the best book that you have read in 2023 so far? For me, I'm gonna cheat at this and I'm gonna say the entire Bonds That Tie series by J. Bree. I read this, literally they were my second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh read of the year. I read the entire series, actually in a reading vlog. It was my very first vlog of the year as well when I was in Mexico. Picked up the first book, was like, let's see what the hype is about, let's try it, and then blasted through the rest of them. They were like crack. You couldn't stop once you started. It was amazing. So the Bonds That Tie series is a urban paranormal why choose romance following Ollie, and when the book starts off you don't really know what's going on. You just know that she has these men that she's bonded to, and these are men who have superpowers, and she's been on the run from them all her life. And when the book starts off, she ends up getting captured by one of the guys that she's like bonded to, and ends up getting forced to attend this like college that some of them are at, and kind of how all the different superpowers and all the secrets are kind of interconnected. And then there's like warring factions of like the resistance and things like that. And it's a really amazing series. It gets super, super intense and I highly recommend it. It is one of my favorite series I have ever read ever, and I think that it will forever stay that. This series has had such an impact on me since reading at the beginning of the year, and I don't think anything else I read this year will top that series. I've read some really great books, but that series has just been top tier, hands down. For the best sequel I've read in 2023, I've read a couple of like series in general. I've read a couple of sequels too, but I feel like I'm cheating a little bit. I feel like this is a little bit of a cheat because it was the first book I read this year, which was Losers Part 2 by Harley LaRue. We have a bit of a theme going on right here. So this actually isn't a why choose romance. This is a polyamorous dark romance duet by Harley LaRue. The first book in the duet was actually one of my top books of 2023. And Part 2 is one of my top books obviously this year just because it was such a stellar duet. Following this girl who used to bully this group of 4 guys when she was in high school. And this series takes place after college when she returns to her hometown. Her car breaks down. One of the guys, Manson, ends up coming across her while her car is broken down, and he ends up offering to help fix it for a price. And that price ends up being her becoming the submissive of these 4 guys over the course of like her car getting fixed, which sounds a little a little odd. I do understand that. And this series does literally have every single kink under the sun that you can imagine in it, even some that you maybe have never even read before. Like this book holds like no bars. Like it literally will give you anything and everything and introduce you to anything and everything. Like this has pet play in it. You got some collar situations going on, a lot of BDSM. I will admit, in the second part, just a fair warning, there is peeing. There is peeing. Now, peeing is not something that I search for when I read a book, and I have read it 3 times now in a series. This is the only time that I have read it and not had an issue with it. If that says anything, I'm gonna cry. But I really did adore this duet, but do read the trigger warnings as well because this is a polyamorous romance. It is 1 girl and 4 guys, but the guys are also in relationships with one another. And there is a whole part of this that has to do with homophobia and biphobia, as well as just general bullying and suicidal ideation and things like that. So please do be aware. Question number 3 is, what is a new release you haven't read yet but you want to? For me, that's going to be Pray Tell by Amanda Richardson. I own this. I was supposed to read it. I have not gotten to it yet. I don't know when I'll get to it because my life is crazy. But I'm so excited to read this book. It is an age gap, primal play, brother's best friend slash best friend's younger sister, like forbidden romance. Basically, what I can tell, so I read the prologue to this, it's about this guy who is super rich, and part of the people that he knows, they have this thing once a year called the Hunt. And the Hunt is basically what it sounds like. Women and people go running in the woods, the very rich people catch them, and I think sexual things ensue. Now this year, what ends up happening is this guy, his best friend's little sister, ends up participating in the hunt. She's there, she's doing it because she's like, fuck you, like I want to be with you and you have ignored me all these years and rejected me and I'm going to shove it in your face. So she participates in the hunt. He sees that and he's like, oh no, I'm not letting anyone else have you because actually I've always been attracted to you, but I thought it was a no-no zone because you're my best friend's little sister. Because in the prologue she was like 18 and he was like in his late 20s and she was like, I want you to take my V card. And he was like, I'm not taking your V card. And she was like, screw you, and then got mad. And so this is all these years later. I'm so excited for this, mostly because it primarily focuses on primal play, which is like one of my favorite kinks to read about. And I have read Amanda Richardson before. I've read her, I think, was it a duet of hers that I think was a Why Choose Romance? It was like a bully, dark Why Choose Romance that I really enjoyed. This isn't a dark romance, even though it looks darkish. One of the big things she said was like, this is not a dark romance, and I was like, okay, I mean, they hunt people in the woods for sex, but sure. Then we have, what is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year? I have a lot of books that I'm anticipating, honestly, coming out for the second half of the year. I would say the one that I know that's coming out that I will be reading that I'm really excited for is King of Greed by Anna Huang. This is Alessandra and Dominic's marriage in trouble romance. It is book 3 in the Kings of Sin series, and I'm so stoked for it. I know like little tidbits of like what this is about and like what's going on in it, and I am just so excited because the big trope in this is basically like Dominic just like groveling because he's like this big billionaire who's like been married to Alessandra all these years, and he's like ignored her. He's ignored this amazing wife of his because he's so focused on becoming richer and richer and richer and like providing for them that he ends up like putting her to the wayside, and she just gets sick of it and she's like, you know what, screw you. She's like, I don't deserve to be treated this way. I'm done. And so it's their marriage in trouble, them like coming back together and like all that different kind of stuff. And I'm so excited for it. I don't think I've really read a marriage in trouble romance really ever. I think I might have read a couple of historicals, but it's not a trope that you see too often in like contemporary romances, especially spicy contemporary romances. You might see them in like, I don't know, oldish ones, but not any that are new and recent, you know what I'm saying? So I'm really excited for this. I've also just loved this entire series overall, and with each subsequent book, Anna really focuses more and more on like the whole sin aspect of it. So in Wrath, the sin was there. In Pride, you really saw like the sin like very heavily, like how it was used. And I feel like in Greed, it's going to be even more so. And so I'm really excited for that. Then we have what is your biggest disappointment? I weirdly enough actually have had a couple of books have been pretty disappointing for me this year, but I feel like one that really stood out to me was Finding You by Jack Whitney, because I went into this genuinely really excited for it because I'd read the prequel novella, which was Sweet Girl or something like that, and it was a Valentine's Day novella, and it was really fun. I had a lot of fun reading it. It was like one of the best like Valentine's Day smutty books that I read this year during that time. So when I found out there was like a full-length novel coming out following the characters, I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be amazing. Read it and was like, no, this was so not it. It really just wasn't, because I went into it thinking it was going to be this romance with this girl who had like a one-night stand with Cupid all these years ago and like them together again. It was so hot, it was so amazing. And basically 80% of the book was this girl in a shitty relationship with her fiance for literally 80% of the book. She was with this man, with him, okay? There's even cheating that goes on. Halfway through the book, she finally gets back with Cupid, okay? After Cupid, like, grovels for 50% of the book. She's like, yeah, I do want to be with you. And then they get together, but she's still with the boyfriend and doesn't break up with him until later on. And I'm like, bruh. Like, I was like, oh, this is so pointless. And then magic came into it, because, like, he is the god Cupid, but, like, it was, like, a subplot, but you can't make the Greek gods a subplot, because then you don't flesh it out enough. And then the last 20% it all comes together, all the Greek god stuff, and I'm like, it just didn't work. It just didn't work, and I was so disappointed because I was so excited. And I have read other books by Jack Whitney before that I have really enjoyed, so I was kind of like, what happened? You know? Like, that's just always so depressing. Then we have your biggest surprise. Now, I've got 2 books here that I'm going to do for biggest surprise. One that was like literally like I read the book and was like, surprise. And then one that was just a surprise because I'm surprised that I liked it. So the book that I'm surprised that I liked should come as no surprise to you guys, and that's going to be the Zodiac Academy series. So I've read books 1, 2, and 3 in Zodiac Academy. I started off my whole reading journey for this series kind of with shits and giggles, just being like, yeah, let's try it out, let's see what it is. I've heard really mixed reviews. People love it, people hate it, people love to hate it, and I was like, let's give it a shot. And I loved it. I fell in love with this series. I am absolutely enjoying the absolute shit out of reading it. I have loved also seeing everyone's kind of comments on the ways that I'm supposed to read all the different books in this series and all the other books that they have written, and kind of like, it's such a fun universe to be a part of, and I'm really enjoying being part of the fandom. I have to be very careful though, because I don't want to get spoiled, because like there are like 8 books out and I'm on book 3, and so like if I try and do any digging, I'm worried that I'm gonna like screw myself over and be like, oh, spoiler, and then downhill for there, because I've done that to myself before, and I don't want to do that to myself again. So I would definitely say Zodiac Academy was one of my biggest surprises that I read and enjoyed this year, hands down. So if you are curious, I do have spoiler vlogs for this series out. If you have read the series, or if you don't really want to read the series, do watch my vlogs, because they're a ride of a time and I have so much fun filming them. And then the book that was a literal surprise to me would be Shattered Dreams, the 3rd book in the Boys of Bellerose series by Tate James and Jamin Ive. This book, so it's a why choose rockstar criminal gang romance, basically. Tate James is like the queen of why choose romances. Really, if you're looking for a why choose reverse harem, you definitely want to read Tate James. But this is my first time reading one of her co-written books, which I do plan on reading more of them. I actually have another one here that I plan on reading soon, which looks very good. But basically, you're following Billy Belrose, and it's her romance with these 3 guys who are part of a rock band, plus this one guy who is the head of like a mafia, and kind of how they all kind of interconnect because she's being hunted by different people and she finds solace with the guys who are in the band. One of the guys in the band is one of her ex-boyfriends who she broke up with really horribly when she was a teenager and hasn't spoken to in like 10 years. And then obviously the guy who's in the mafia, her romance with him, initially she thinks that he's trying to kill her, and so that's a whole thing. But then it turns out that other people are trying to kill her, and then there's also the whole rockstar aspect of it. It's a really, really fun book, really awesome romance. Even if you think that you're not super into like rockstar romances, do check it out. But one of the things that really stood out to me was that there was a big plot twist, plot reveal in book 3 that I just did not see coming. That I stood there and I was like, no, really? And like, I genuinely like did not see that twist coming. And I've read a lot of Tate James before, so a lot of times when it comes to her books and we get cliffhangers and things like that, I can kind of guess where things are going, or I can kind of be like, oh, like she killed someone, but like they're not really dead, you know, like those kind of situations. Like I've kind of like gathered some things for her now. But this happened and I stood there and I was like, yo, that is so messed up. Are you serious? I was like, how are we gonna come back from this? Like I was like, what? Also, this was really unique because of the fact that it was 1 girl and 4 guys in a relationship. Normally when you have a wide choose, the most common kind of thing that you see is 1 girl and 3 guys, so it's just a group of 4, but it was larger. We had 5 people this time, 5 human beings. And yes, that does mean at the very end there is a group scene, 1 chick, 4 dudes. And trust me, that was great to read. Highly recommend it. Okay, then we have favorite new to you author. Now this for me was kind of hard to do, so I'm actually picking 3 authors. Now, number 1 would have to be J. Bree, because like I said, the Bonsai Tai series is one of the best book series that I've read this year. Best books I've read this year. I think it was book 5 is my favorite in that series, if you are curious. But hands down, obviously J. Bree has to be one of my new favorite authors. Then I did read from 2 new authors this year. The first is Elsie Silver. I read Flawless, and then also Black Ties and White Lies, which I read by Kat Singleton. So I'll put both the books up here. They were both books that I absolutely adored, and there were 2 books that I read when I was actually in reading slumps, and then I picked up these books and they brought me out of reading slumps and were total 5 out of 5 stars. Well, I think Black Ties and White Lies was a 4.5, but Flawless was an easy 5-star. And because of that, like, they have to be brand new favorite authors. I still need to read more from both of these authors since then. I keep meaning to, but a girl is busy. But Flawless is a romance between a girl who is part of a PR firm, and the guy, Rhett, is a professional bull rider, and he ends up being, and basically the girl ends up being sent to be his babysitter for the summer because he's become a bit of a PR nightmare. So she has to babysit him until his next, like, world tournament so that she can make sure that things run smoothly. And so it's their forced proximity romance. And then Black Ties and White Lies is about a guy who is this massive billionaire CEO who ends up asking his brother's ex-girlfriend to be his fake fiancé to cover for a PR nightmare that has kind of occurred for him, which is also super fun. If you love billionaire romances, definitely read Black Ties and White Lies because it has literally every single billionaire trope you could ever imagine in it. Like, any kind of like opulence, kind of like extravagant thing a guy can do will happen in that book, like hands down. And then Flawless will just make you laugh and cry, and well, you won't cry, but you will laugh your ass off. It was some of the funniest shit I've ever read was in Flawless. It was one of the best small town romance, probably the best small town romance I have read this year, without a doubt. Then we have, who is your newest fictional crush? I've got two. First is ᴛᴏᴏᴅᴅᴅ from the Buns That Tie series. Are we surprised? No. No, we're not surprised. It was always going to be Knox. Man, I love Knox so much. And it was so funny because he was my least favorite character in the first book. Well, I was kind of like 50-50. I was like, what's going on here? I like kind of hated him in the first book, and then he grew on me, and he grew on me, and he became my freaking favorite character in that entire series. So easily hands down my new favorite crushes. And then I do, just because I have to put this book in here somewhere, Xaden from Fourth Wing is also one of my newest fictional crushes. Oh, that man. He was like, I hate you, and then does things for her on like the sly. And I'm like, man, you can't say you hate her if you're out here like making her like a custom saddle for her dragon. Like, you liar. You big liar. Actions speak louder than words, honey. Like, dude, come on. Then we have your newest favorite character. I actually kind of struggled with this because I don't really have like a new favorite, like just character overall, I feel like this year, but I will say I really am loving Tory Vega in the Zodiac Academy series. She's like my favorite of the sisters. I just love her in general as a character. She's just super, super fun. And then I also really loved Ollie from the Bonds That Tie series because she was an absolute badass. Like, you just have so much fun. Obviously, I feel like at this point, I'm just like, Bonds That Tie. Read the Bonds That Tie series. Like a damn broken record in this entire video. But I mean, it's true. I really, really did enjoy that series so much. It stood out to me like no other, and I had such a ride of a time reading it. So I want people to know that. And Ollie, who was the female heroine in it, was such a badass. She was so amazing, and just her growth throughout the series, it was so cool, guys. Like, please, 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 please pick it up. Then we have Book That Made You Cry. I haven't cried from a book this year. Nothing really has. So I don't really have anything for that. Just a little orksies. Then the next one is A Book That Made You Happy. This was so easy to do. So I just finished this book, and that is The Graham Effect by Elle Kennedy. Now, technically this book comes out in October 31st of this year. So it's not out yet, but I had to put it on here because I literally loved this book so much. It was one of the books that I completed during like the 3 weeks that I was moving, and life was super hectic during that time. A lot of things were going on, but I read this book and it was just so much fun. It was such like a classic Elle Kennedy book. It was such a ride over time. She also has chapter titles for each of the chapters in the book, and they were so much fun to read as well. But this book is the second generation, basically, series from Elle Kennedy, and you're following Gigi Graham, who is the daughter of Hannah and Garrett Graham, who were the main characters in The Deal, which is like the hockey romance book of all time. And Gigi is a college hockey player at Bryce University trying to get onto the women's Olympic team, but she kind of has some shortcomings that she's kind of struggling with. And at the same time, two rival colleges have kind of come together for their hockey team and merged as one at Bryce University. And they now have two co-captains, one of which is Ryder. and Ryder is this very grumpy and stoic college hockey boy, and he really like looks up to and admires Garrett Graham, but Garrett Graham doesn't really like him because he has some things in his past, and so him and Gigi come to an agreement to help each other out, where Ryder will help Gigi with what she's struggling with on the ice, and Gigi will help Ryder with like his reputation with her dad off the ice. And then throughout all of that, they become friends with benefits, and it's a whole thing, and it is amazing. I can't say more because like spoilery, and like I'm not allowed to because we're still so many months out from the book coming out, and like no one else has read it yet. So that's all I can say for now. I did actually, we did have a spicy excerpt go up with Cosmopolitan, which is the very first spicy scene that happens in the book in the shower. So if you do want a little bit of a spicy little tidbit of what's going to happen in the book, do check that out because it was delicious. And yeah. Then second to last, we had the most beautiful books you've bought so far this year. I don't have them on me because I'm here. Oh my god, you know what's some of the most prettiest books I've gotten this year? My Illumicrate and Fairy Lit editions of the Crescent City set. Oh my god, those were so gorgeous. You can actually see those in my most recent book haul because I hauled them both in my most recent book haul. Did I look like a crazy person being like, and here's my second editions and my next editions? I now own 13 copies of this entire series. Should I? Probably not, but I do. And then last but not least, what is a book you need to read by the end of the year? Well, I need to read the book that I'm currently reading. I'm currently in the middle of Minx by Sophie Lark, so I do need to read that. And then I would probably say I want to read Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros, just because, I mean, it's like the newest like big craze, and I feel like I need to read that before the year ends because I want to stay like on track with everyone else who is reading it, and I want to make sure that I don't get spoiled for anything because I will be. Without a doubt, there's no way that people are not going to spoil like as this series goes on. So I do want to read that for sure. And then lastly, I also have Hideaway Love by Melanie Harlow, which is the second book in her new like Cherry Hill small town romance series. And this one is a bodyguard celebrity small town romance, which I'm super stoked about. I love Melanie Harlow. I love the first book in this series, which was Runaway Love, and so I can't wait for the second one. It's gonna be super, super good. Obviously, no cover exists yet, but you know how it is. Yeah, that is my mid-year book freakout tag. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to click the like button down below. If you want to see more of me, please go to my channel and check me out over on TikTok and Instagram. And until next time, thanks a bunch everyone. Bye-bye.